All right, folks. So I'm going to show you actually a real world example of using Excel really quickly, just to give some context with some real numbers. So I pulled this data out of a POS system for my company. And one of the exercises I'm currently working on is to get a by day transaction sort of net total across a given store. And so I can do this a couple ways, but one way I can do this is through a pivot table. So just a couple things to call out really quickly about the data I have here. So I've downloaded this data. I've already structured it in a pretty clear way. So it is, all of these conform. The data types are all going to be the same. You'll see that my data is pretty clean here. So I've done some work to it. I've queried it in a program actually called MySQL, where, let me wrap this real quick. Okay, so I've used this bit of code right here in a database to pull from a set of transactions this data. So what I get is this Excel sheet. And so now I'm going through this exercise of validating two new data sources against each other. So just for an initial exploration, I'm going to insert a pivot table, because a pivot table is a really great way to, I'm going to do that real quick. I'm going to do that one more time. So I want to add the data model. Delete. Okay, boom. Here we go. All right. So I've selected all this data by clicking in this little area up here. I've selected everything here. And then I've gone in and I've, inserted pivot table. Okay. You can insert from various things, but I happen to have my data here, so it's already there. All right, so this is my pivot table. So now I'm going to select my fields that I want to see. I happen to know some of them. So F&O location number is a unique identifier that is given to this particular store. And our banner ID is actually something that, identifies them. But this location number has a corresponding name. This is our Curaleaf, Arizona location. Okay. And so I'm going to actually, there we go. Okay. So this is a store that's in Camelback. So really quickly, I want to know how many customers came through on this day. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drag customer ID to value. Now, customer ID is a unique value. And so what I want to do here is I want to change my settings. Okay, I'm going to go back real quick. I dragged customer ID, which if you look in the data, customer ID looks like this. The customer ID is unique for an individual. So each individual is going to have their own customer ID. It's kind of like your social security number. I know that about my data already. So that's kind of some knowledge I have coming in. All right, so I want to count it because the number has no meaning. It's not, it's not like it's a price I paid for something. It's just a unique identifier I have. You can't add up your social security number for any, value, if you will. All right. So 906, I've counted in this data set right here, there are 906 unique IDs. See if I can validate that. I just went down to the bottom. So there's 907 rows in this. So at the end of the day, it appears that that's pretty good. Great. So 906 people. What's the total cost that people spent coming in? Okay, so I added this to my values as well. And I have a sum here. Okay, sum of total cost. I'm going to click on number format real quick because I want to update my number format. Hopefully my screen won't freeze. There we go. All right, I'm going to go to currency because this is money. I'm going to get rid of I'm going to keep my decimals. Right, okay. All right, so now I have 906 people came into this store. This happens to be on one day, December 1st. I'm looking at a particular day. And they spent $20,000. Okay. I'm also interested in the total number of items that were sold. This is different than the number of customers. So 906 customers bought 2,378 items. So again, I'm going to come in here to my total items. I'm going to click on my value field settings. I'm going to come down to number format. This is a number. I don't want decimals, but I do want thousand separators. So I'm going to come in here and I'm going to update my number and format this cell. And then I'm going to tell it to use the thousand separators. Okay. Okay. All right, let's look at some others. So cash returned. How much cash did we hand out? There's no money there. So we will go on to the next one. Let's see. Just trying to see if there's any other total charges. Invoice total. Here we go. Okay. That's what I wanted. So do the same thing. I'm going to come down into my values. I'm going to update my format real quick. This is a currency. Okay. I'm going to keep my decimals. All right. Okay. Okay. All right. So why is my cost different than my total? Well, my cost is what it costs us as a business, and the invoice total is what I actually received in sales for this. Okay. So that's how those differ. That's how the business has an idea on, what did it cost us to purchase this versus, what did we sell it for? Okay. And let's see if there's any loyalty points, not that day. Let's see how much debit paid. So now what I'm looking at is how much of these purchases were made with a debit card. So in some states, you can use a debit card. In others, you can't. So it just kind of depends. But that's a jurisdictional thing. So debit paid. So debit, this is how much was paid with debit. And let's see if we have another paid. Doesn't look total paid. We're going to add total paid. Okay. All right. So in theory, total paid. I'm going to make this appropriate number of value because I want to do some calculations on it. I want to, right. Okay. All right. So now I'm going to do some equals. I'm just going to add these two up just to see. Okay. So I would like to see if these equal the sum of the invoice total, but it doesn't look like that. So I would be interested to understand this gap. Okay, so I show my total cost here. That makes sense to me. Total items that were sold, invoice totals, and then I have this debit paid and total paid, which I don't actually fully understand. I also have a total charges. Aha, here we go. So total charges, slightly different. Invoice total and total charges. And then total tax. It's an important one. There we go. So I'm going to move these around now because now they're kind of out of an order that I want. So let me do a little bit of sort of restructuring here of our table. First thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to flip the view here a bit just because it kind of makes more sense given the data that I'm looking at. There we go. All right. Looking at the same thing just in a slightly different way. And I'm going to get rid of the location number because it's the same for all of this. This is one location. It was a duplicate. There we go. All right. So now what we're going to do is I don't want to do that. Undo. Undo is always available to you. Okay. All right, so I'm going to reorder these a little bit so that I can work with them a little bit better. So I'm going to bring the total items up. I'm going to come down here into my little selection area. I'm going to drag it up. Okay. So now total items is here. Okay. I am also value field settings going to update a custom name. Okay. So this is going to be total items sold this day. Right now you'll see it's changed right here. I'm going to do the same thing with customers. And I'm actually going to find a count. So I have count and I have count distinct. Now, if I were to do count distinct, each customer, again, has a unique ID. So if the same customer made 2 separate transaction purchases, I would actually double count him if I just do count. So I'm going to actually come down here and do count distinct. All right. And then I'm also going to rename it really quickly, just unique customers on the day. All right, sum of total cost. So since we're not too sure yet if, this is the business cost. Okay, invoice total is before tax. This is tax. And so in theory, let's see what the difference is between these two. Plus this, look at that. They're almost near perfect. So I'm still missing some value here that I need to account for. Cash returned. Nope. Okay. Let me undo that real quick. Added another layer there. Okay. Business cost before tax. All right. So I took the value that was here in the invoice total and then the total taxes, and I just added them together, and it's almost a 1-to-1 match. There's about a $70 difference. And so notice a $70 difference here. Unclear what it's for. I need to come back and address it. Okay. I'm going to go back in. So I don't show any cash return. I show no loyalty discounts. Okay. And me. Okay. So this won't let me do it because it's the wrong kind of data type. So I'm going to remove it because it's giving me a hard time. Okay. All right. So I have one customer who had a blank ID. We'll have to come back and address that too. It's like a data cleaning step. All right. Get rid of total cost. I did. Invoice credit. Cancel. Okay, so it's not letting me do that because I've got this right here. It's asking me if I want to replace it. So let me go ahead and try that again now. No, it's that. So sometimes Excel can get finicky with you. There we go. This is not, I'm going to clear this all and then start over because it doesn't look very straightforward. I'm going to go back in here and look at invoice credit really quickly. Okay, so let's see. If we came in here to invoice total now, if I went down to the bottom of this data, I'm going to come all the way down. I've got whatever that 900 rows. I'm going to do a sum here. Okay. So now I'm looking at all of the data points in this entire column in invoice total. Okay. So I summed L2 through L907. Okay. I've got this amount right here, 55,000. If I go into my pivot table, I see this corresponding amount. So I can get to this the same way. And I'm going to just drag this over here because a lot of these are similar values. And so we'll just kind of really quickly see. We've got, 225,000. So if I come in here, 25,000. So debit paid, right? Got that 10,000. These are my taxes. Okay. So, I could have done this either way, but this was, this was the way that it made sense to do it here. 23,000. So that's my total items sold. Okay. Total paid. And then I've got this other amount. So let's look up here. All right, total charges. So one thing I'm going to do really quickly, because it's hard for me to navigate, at least in this big old spreadsheet. I'm not a big fan of spreadsheets. I think they serve their purpose. They're great. I do think if you are interested in computer science, to really think about query languages, very, very high utility and pays well as a career. All right, so here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to come to view and I'm going to freeze this line so that no matter what I do, as I scroll down, I'm always going to know what I'm looking at here. Okay. So again, that was under view and I came to freeze panes and I froze. I can freeze my columns. I can make a large radio selection for something too. I could say, do this. And then I could come in here and freeze panes. It would freeze everything to the left of this. Okay. So it's, there we go, top row. All right. So I'm going to come down to the bottom here real quick. All right. All right. So now let's see. The total cost, invoice total, total charges. All right. So my invoice total charges, and my tax. Now let's see here. Total grams. Okay. So that's the total weight of products sold, total items, total paid. I'm going to assume this is the total paid in cash and the total debt. Let's see. Let's just check it out real quick. Okay, 61,000. So equals this minus the total due to the customer. Okay, so that's where our discrepancy ends up. All right, so perfect. So now just for some context, so my invoice total, again, this is total actual cost of what we're going to charge people for the products that they're purchasing. Okay. There was 60,000 in total charges. Okay. So that includes a couple of things. That includes this amount that is taken away because this is what is due back to customers. We've charged 60,000, but our invoice total is only 55,000. So somewhere in here, there's a difference. And that is actually in the total due customer. When customers use their debit card, often it is rounded up. And so that is the amount that was handed back and rounded up, just as that goes. Okay, so I'm going to pause. I just wanted to, I'm specifically looking at this data right now because I'm doing, I am doing some data work, which I will pause. I'm going to pause really quickly and upload this for you. If it's helpful, great. If not, okay. Thanks.